In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at woodworking joints. So these can be broken down into two separate categories. We have knockdown joints and we have traditional joints. These joints can be broken down into two further categories. We've got carcass and we have flat frame. So we're going to look at these individually, and then as we go through this tutorial there will be questions. So as we get to the questions, I'll talk through them, pause the video, you can go ahead and answer them and then come back and resume. Okay. A knockdown joint is a joint that can be taken apart and then reassembled again without any damage happening to the material. So let's have a look at some of them. The knockdown fitting is this part here, and that is joining these two pieces of material together without any skill. All we're doing is taking a bit of plastic that has been made, putting 4 screws in, and that has given us a nice secure joint. We have a look at the next one. Again, two pieces of material are joining together. We would simply drill a hole for this cylinder to slide into, and then the screw joins onto that cylinder and acts as a nut to pull that screw or bolt in. Another one, we're joining 3 pieces here. We have slots at the side of the horizontal bars that the metal is clipping into. That's been secured with screws, and then again we have a nut and bolt coming in from the opposite side to secure that table leg. This one here is a joint commonly found on flat pack furniture. So we've got a little cam that goes into a pre-drilled hole, and then we have a piece that's got a screw thread and a little ball that locks into this cam to pull it tight together. Another one similar to this first one, we've got a block, screws go in and hold that joint together. Again, no skill involved with the actual assembly of these. It is simply purchasing a part and fitting them. The only real skill involved would be getting the holes lined up, but we have jigs that allow us to do that. This one here, hopefully you'll all recognise, that's just a simple screw. What we have here is a screw cup that allows the head of the screw to be neatly hidden in the material. Down here again, similar to the first and the fifth. What we have here is 2 blocks. One gets attached, as you can see on this animation here. One gets attached to each piece, and then there's a simple bolt with a nut that helps join it all together, and then we have 2 location pins to help line that up. Last one's maybe a bit more complex. We've got a miter joint here that we will look into in a little minute, so there's a little bit more skill involved to cut that. Then again we've got a bolt going through here to pull the 2 kind of U shapes together, which again will pull this joint closed. Okay, so knockdown fittings, not a lot of skill involved, they are purchased pieces that either screw or bolt together to give you the secure fitting. With these though, we can undo them to take the furniture apart. Okay. If we now have a look at traditional methods and our 2 categories. So we have flat frame and we have carcass. Now the difference between flat frame and carcass is the orientation of the wood. Okay, so these are 2 quite similar joints. We're taking half the material away and half the material, but if you look at the orientation of it, it's completely different. So we know going across the material, we have the breadth, vertical, we have the thickness, so that's the thickness here, and the longest size is usually the length of the material. So if we look at that, we've got the breadth of the material going across the breadth of the material. Okay. If we look at the carcass, we've got the breadth is now sitting vertically on this one, the thickness, and we have the length. So what we have here is we have the thickness sitting on the breadth. Okay, so that's the main difference between the flat frame and the carcass joints. It's the orientation of the material. The traditional joints take a lot of skill, although they can be done with automated machines. If we're thinking about creating these things from scratch, they do take a lot of skill, marking out, and precision when cutting. Okay, so your first task is going to be thinking about the knockdown joints. What is a knockdown fitting? I want you to think about why it'd be cheaper to mass produce using the knockdown fittings and joints instead of traditional methods. So mass produce is obviously when you're making a lot of these items. Next question I want you to think about is the traditional joints. They can be split into two groups. Just name those groups for me. And I'd like to know why traditional joints would be used instead of knockdown joints. Okay, think about how long the item's going to last. Think about moving house. I would like you to think about how the item looks overall. Okay, so if you go ahead and pause the video, get your questions noted down, and then come back and press play. We're now going to have a look at the two categories of traditional joints. Start off with carcass joints. This one here is a dowel joint. So again, we're working with the thickness of the material against the breadth of the other. So what we would do for the dowel joints is we would simply drill 2 holes in one of our pieces. We would actually use dowel pins to help line that up to give us the position of the holes for the other piece. And then when they're joined together, we don't actually see the dowels, but that adds extra strength to this joint. A butt joint is the simplest and weakest joint that we could actually make. So unlike the dowel joint that has these supporting dowels in it, the butt joint is simply glued and pushed together until dried. Okay, so it is quite easy to break apart. With all joints, there's a time and a place to use it. If you're looking for strength in a joint, the butt joint is not one that you're wanting to use. Okay, so it's simply glued together. With the dowel, obviously we would put glue in the holes and on the face of the edge joining to give that the extra strength. If we look at through housing joints, we are cutting a groove into the second piece of material that this first piece will fit straight into. So no work needs done on this section here. But on the second part, that's where we cut this housing channel. Okay, with these joints that I'm going through just now, you will see that there's material either side, quite commonly known as T-joints. Okay, these would be for shelves and things like that, where there's material at either side. Another one is stopped housing. This one here, you can see it doesn't go all the way through. So we would need to cut a notch out of the first piece of material as it is kept on the second piece. Again, that one there, believe it or not, is actually stronger than the through housing. If we look at the number of surfaces it can get glued, we've got 1, 2, and then the inside here would be 3 surfaces. Whereas on this one, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 surfaces there that we can glue on. So that's a good way of kind of figuring out how strong a joint's going to be, is to count the number of surfaces that we can apply glue to. Corner housing. So similar to the through housing, but it's now sat at the edge of the material. Again, nothing happens to this first piece. The second piece gets that notch cut out. Now with these, we're actually going half of the thickness into the material. So if my material is 20 millimeters thick, I would be coming in 10 millimeters to cut out that groove, that housing. Okay, again, this one here, not the strongest joint. There's only 2 surfaces that we can glue there, so it's vertical and the one just hidden in the back here. If we wanted a stronger corner joint, then we would go for a finger joint. Now, a finger joint, we're taking away opposite pieces of material so that they then interlock and join together. The number of finger joints you have depends on the depends on the breadth of your piece of wood and the detail that you want involved. Obviously, you don't want to cut tiny finger joints, they're just going to snap. You want them to be a substantial size to give you that strength. So if we look at this one here to see how many surfaces we can glue, there are many surfaces that we can glue. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, and then we can glue the tops and bottoms of each of these fingers. Okay, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 surfaces that we can glue on here. That's going to be a very strong joint. If we want another joint that is even stronger and looks more aesthetically pleasing, so we're thinking about how it looks now, we would have a dovetail joint. Now there's two different examples here. This one, obviously when joined together, looks like that, and then we've got the simpler version here that doesn't show you how they join together. So if we have a look at this one, we're actually cutting the tails at an angle. So if you see here, that's actually sloping. When this is put together, if I try and pull this top piece back the way, there's no way that that is coming out of this second bit of material. So these would be used for drawers. If you have a look at, if you've got furniture in your house, it's a traditional style, or older furniture, you'll probably find that they have dovetail joints on them, or even hidden dovetail joints. So with this one, if that was the front of the drawer, you would be able to see in these rectangles. If it's a hidden dovetail, then you would just have the solid piece of material with the dovetail sitting in at the side there. So these are quite complex to make, and we will go through that when we're back in the workshop, but we use a tool called a sliding bevel to allow us to get these angles. Okay, so that's probably one of the stronger joints that you'd be able to make for the carcass construction. So what I would like you to do now is to list the joints below in order of strength. Now we're going to have two different categories here. So the first one, I want you to think about the dowel, stopped housing and through housing. So list them in order of strength for me. Go weakest to strongest, it's probably easier. And with the second set, we've got dovetail, corner housing, finger and butt joint. Again, I want these listed weakest to strongest, please. Pause the video and note them down. Now that we've looked at carcass joints, I want to have a look at flat frame joints. These can be a bit more complex in their construction, but we'll break them down and have a look at them one at a time. So these aren't in any particular order. One thing I will say at the moment though is if we look at these again, we're having a T shape made, so they're not sitting at the corner, there is still material at either side. Okay, now it'll become obvious why I'm pointing that out later on. So what we have here is a through mortise and tenon. So the mortise is the hole. We can cut that with a mortise chisel or the mortise machine. And the tenon is cut using the tenon saw, which is this section here. Now if you look at that, we tend to divide the thickness of the material into 3 to give us an even spacing. With the tenon, we remove the 2 outside pieces, and with the mortise, we remove the middle piece. The distance that we're coming in here, from the edge to the shoulder of the joint, is the breadth of the material, so it goes all the way through when it's joined together. A dovetail having, again, we'd use the sliding bevel to give us this slope. But when that's put in place, if I try to pull it kind of towards us, I suppose, you would not be able to remove that. Okay, it would be locked in place. If we look at how many surfaces we're gluing here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, but this slope makes it a lot stronger. Okay, so here we're removing the top tail, and here we've removed the bottom half and the triangles to give us the tail. A T-bridle. I like to think of this as kind of the opposite to a mortise and tenon. On our crossbar, we have taken away the top and bottom section. So that would be done with the tenon saw and a chisel. The inside here, you'd use a tenon saw to cut down, and either a chisel or a coping saw to cut that bottom flat. And then when they slot together, you can see over here what it looks like. Okay, so that's quite a complex joint, Again, let's have a count as to the number of surfaces. So 1, 2, 3. We'd have 3 at the bottom, and then we'd have this one here. So 7 surfaces in total that we can glue there. T-halving is a weaker joint than the dovetail halving, and purely because if I take this surface here and pull it out, it will just pull out. But again, we have 4 surfaces there that we can glue. Okay, so it's a reasonably strong joint, but not as strong as that dovetail halving. So that's a T-halving. The difference between a halving and a housing is the orientation of this material. Okay, so we're going for the breadth against the breadth, whereas with the T or the through housing, we'd be going for the thickness against the breadth. Okay, so it's important that you note that. Stopped T-halving, it simply just doesn't go all the way through the material. So it's maybe more aesthetically pleasing from the front where you've just got your solid bit of material. But here it also adds another surface that we can glue. So we've got our 3 normal, 4, and that's a 5th surface now that we can glue. Okay, so when we're making this, we just need to remember the distance that we've come in here and shorten this, because normally with a T-halving, we would come in the full breadth of the material, but with the stopped, we need to keep an extra section to allow us just to go from the corner to the shoulder. Next one we're going to look at is a stub mortise and tenon. So a stub mortise and tenon is one that simply doesn't go all the way through. With a normal mortise and tenon, if we looked at the other side, we would be able to see the hole with obviously the wood filling it in. With stub mortise and tenon, this distance that we're coming in here is not the full breadth of the material. So it'd stop maybe somewhere about here. So it doesn't go all the way through that material. Looking at it, it looks like maybe a butt joint where we're just pushing the item up against the other, or even a dowel. It's quite hard to tell because we don't have the mortise and tenon at the other side. So that's more of a hidden joint. Last one we're going to have a look at here is a miter halving. So a normal miter joint would just be the 45 degrees on either side. So this would cut all the way through, and then this one here would actually come up to the top. But a miter halving is even stronger because we have those extra surfaces to glue. With a miter halving, we have 1, 2, 3 surfaces that we can glue. Okay, it's a very nice looking joint. If you have a look at your door frames in your house, you'll probably see just a standard miter joint going around the edge. But a miter halving is a bit stronger if we're working with likes of picture frames and things like that would need to be moved. You would want something a little bit stronger there. So last couple of tasks I would like you to do for this lesson. So your next task, I want you to list the joints below in order of strength. I would also like you to note down how many surfaces we have to glue. Okay, so have a count of the surfaces that are going to come into contact with each other, and then tell me beside the name of the joint how many surfaces we have to glue. And hopefully what you'll find is the order that you have written them in for strength wise, the numbers gradually go up as well with the surfaces for gluing. Pause the video and get that written down, please. So this is your last task. If we think about the joints that we've just looked at, some of them can actually be moved to the end of the material, so the corners, to give you the flat frame corner joints. So what I would like you to do is look up the list of joints I'm going to list below, and I want you to sketch the joints out. Now, if you're doing this digitally, I do not want you copying and pasting the image, okay? Through this course, you will have to do some sketching, so it's good that we get the practice in just now. Okay, so even if you're answering your questions digitally, it would be good if you can just grab a bit of paper, pen or pencil, and just sketch these images for me, okay? So we've got a corner halving, corner bridle, a haunched mortise and tenon, and a stopped mortise and tenon. So there are 4 joints I would like you to look up and to sketch. So I'm not needing anything as fancy as this here. You don't need to add in the material if you don't want to. Something as simple as your piece of material, and then from there you could even show what's going to be removed. So if I mark it out like this, for this part here, I would want half of that at the same angle, and then I can bring that down. Okay, so just a simple sketch showing what material it is that we'd be keeping. Doesn't have to be too fancy, as I'm saying, just so I know that you've looked this up, and if you're able to sketch it, then more often than not in the workshop, you'll be able to visualize how that item is going to look. So for this second piece here, I'll do something similar. Start off with my material and then cut away what I don't need. So this time I'm going to have horizontal. It's going to come down half the thickness. Try working getting your lines parallel. I'm just sketching this with a graphics tablet. Not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but there we go. Okay, so it doesn't have to be complex. Just write down the name of the joint beside it and a little sketch as to what that joint is going to look like. Okay, you will be able to find clear pictures of these on the internet, so just take a couple of minutes, have a look to see what you can come up with, and then get that sketched for us. Okay. I will go back to the slide in a wee minute, but once you have done this, as usual, I'd like you to upload your work for marking onto Google Classroom. You can either upload it as pictures, like a lot of you have been doing, or as Word documents. It's completely up to yourself. But take your time and get these sketches done as neatly as you can. I look forward to seeing your work.